Welcome to the Circuit of Success. I'm your host, Brett Gilliland. Today we've got Marc Hodulich with us. Marc, how you doing, my man?
I'm great, Brett. How are you?
I'm good. I like those pictures back there. Looks like you got some mountains, maybe. Mountains in the lake. Got some kids.
Yeah,
Stuff going
got
on, creating experiences.
Europe ski trip, dog, kids, all the things.
The white picket fence. You got it all, man. Well, cool. I am excited to have you today. So you are an avid adventurer. You're an accomplished entrepreneur, father of two boys, married, founded and exited multiple companies. One of them, which I'm assuming is what that red hat is right there, is the 29029. And we'll look forward to talking about all that stuff. But before we do that, I'd like to dive in and kind of learn about the past, man. What's the background? What's the story you've got that's made you the man you are today?
Well, thanks for having me. It hasn't been a linear journey, I'll tell you that. But briefly, yeah, look, I had a great childhood growing up. My dad was a runner. I got to be a competitive runner in late middle school to high school. I ran track in college. And I think, formed the basis of just discipline and commitment to a goal, and didn't achieve my goals at all as a college runner. I ran at Auburn, and as much as I love the school, I probably shouldn't have been running in the SEC. I was good enough to make our travel team and ass kicked at every race that we went to. So, it was a humbling experience. And then always just kind of dreamed big, right? And kind of felt like I knew what my life would be like if I moved back to Birmingham, Alabama, where I was originally from. And right after school, moved up to New York City. And, it's kind of knowing what the goal is, but having no idea how you're going to figure it out. I knew I wanted to live there. I knew I wanted to be in consulting or work in finance. And it was a tough market. It was right after '02. And yeah, it was just a real tough time to find a job in the world of finance. And so I did everything from sell payroll door to door at ADP to work at Thomas Pink selling luxury clothing goods to working at a caterer. And it took me about 4 months to find a really good management consulting job, but I wasn't unwilling to put in really hard work that maybe I felt like my degrees and my background and my skill set maybe weren't aligned with. I was just willing to put in the work to try to find the goal. And yeah, kind of just met my wife in New York. We've been married 17 years now. And pretty quickly in the world of management consulting, I knew it's not what I wanted to do a long time. And still had always that side hustle mentality, and had founded a business off to the side, and eventually was able to kind of leave my consulting gig and do that full time. And that's kind of changed into the world of event production, a lot of live events, community building, and finds me where I am today, which is, running a company that I founded with my partners that we sold and bought back called 29029. And that stands for the height of Everest, 29,029 feet. And we built a really cool community and endurance concept that really gives people a story to tell. Over a course of a weekend, you're going to go to Sun Valley or Whistler or Jackson Hole, and we're going to present a challenge of, can you hike up a mountain and take a gondola down? Continue to climb it until you hike 29,029 feet. So kind of very quick transition to where I'm at now, but it's never easy. And I think a lot of people don't see all of the challenges, failed businesses, jobs you didn't want to work. They kind of just see the lifestyle that you have now or the position you're in now. And I'm only able to be here because of learning from my mistakes, but also having really great trusted relationships along the way that finally found the right way to leverage all those in this current business that I'm running now.
Yeah. Well, it's awesome to see, man, that you talked about the community. I mean, the 29029 is amazing. I mean, I watch it through Jesse's social media stuff, Jesse Itzler's social media stuff. That's how I originally got turned on to it. And then through your stuff, it's just amazing. It's an amazing community. And it's something that people, I think, of all walks of life can try to go accomplish. And so my question for you, if there's 1,000 people that do it, how many people are finishing it?
Depends on the location, but I'd say on average around 68%, right? 68 to 70% finish it. Look, compare that to a marathon where you get about a 98% finisher rate. A lot of people are surprised by that. Marathons have a tremendously high finisher rate. And then compare that to something that I've done as well, the Leadville Trail 100, which is one of the most famous kind of mountain ultra marathons, 100-mile run. That's got like a 35% finisher rate. So I don't want to say we're in the middle. It's really hard. It takes a long time, but it's so approachable. We had a participant, Jim Fisher, who finished our event last year in Whistler, 80 years old, right?
Oh, wow.
And he said it's frustratingly doable. Like, he just moved slowly walking for 35 straight hours, right? And so if you're willing to forego sleep or a little bit of sleep, it's amazing what you can accomplish if you just keep moving. And, most people do get to sleep 3, 4, 5 hours, right? But we're talking about one night of your whole life
Yeah.
versus being able to say, hey, I went to Jackson Hole or Whistler or Sun Valley and climbed that mountain 12, 15, 17 times until I climbed the height of Everest. I'd sacrifice one night of sleep,
Yeah.
almost once a month. I do that. I do them all, right? And it's uh, to be able to tell that story, but learn about yourself and the skills that you learn and the patience, the discipline, the commitment, the compassion, the empathy, all those things that happen because it's not a race. It's self-scored, and you have 36 hours to keep track of your own hikes up the mountain and be really rewarded with a pretty turnkey experience. So not a super high finisher rate, but at the same time, you don't have to be an accomplished endurance athlete. And for most of our participants, they've never done 10K or even a half marathon before they sign up for the event.
Wow. Yeah. And what you talked about there is the mindset, man, the to being able to do that. Because I think so many times that little space up here in our heads tells us we can't do this, we can't do that, it's dangerous, no sleep, or maybe you got a condo there, maybe you're sleeping outside, whatever it is people are doing. The negative self-talk is huge, right? And that's in business, that's in just anything in life. So what have you done throughout your life to kind of flick that negative self-talk guy off your shoulder and compete and accomplish anyway?
I mean, look, I think it'd be wrong for me to say that I got it all figured out. But what I tell you is I'm constantly putting myself in a position where I'm gaining confidence through completing things. And I think that's the only way you really figure it out is that the voice inside your head that's telling you you're not good enough, you're not fast enough, you're not strong enough, you're not smart enough, you're not working, whatever that is, as you actually accumulate these small wins. And those wins happen a lot in training, right? I mean, you get this red hat if you finish, right? If you climb 29,029 feet, you earn this red hat. And you earn that red hat through 5 or 6 months of training, right? It's getting up in the morning when you didn't want to. It's going for a hike in the rain. It's doing the workout in the gym for your hip flexors. It's all of those little things that add up to the finish line. And most people only see the finish line. So I think you're able to do it on a consistent basis. Look, today I finished my run and I was in a little bit of a rush for a call, and I would normally go in cold plunge. And I've had a plunge at my house for well over a year, and I do it every day. It's going to be a mental challenge to do it later today. I'm not hot after a run. It's going to be dark by the time it's a chance to do it. It's going to be out of my routine. But you get a small win from doing something like that, right? You start developing that mindset, and I think if you constantly put yourself in a position um, where you have an opportunity to quit on yourself and you realize that you didn't, you sharpen that tool. So when you're doing something really big like a 29 and 29, you're able to rely on some past experience there. And even if you haven't done a big event before, you're sharpening that tool through training.
Yeah. So we're going to divert here for a second. Is this cold plunge? So everybody talks about, I've had the guy, Ryan Dewey, the founder of Plunge on, and there's a lot of great ones out there. He's the one I know. But talk to our listeners about that, man. Cause anybody that's doing peak performance type stuff now is talking about this cold plunge. So is it a game changer for you like it is for a lot of people?
I mean, look, first of all, I have a plunge, so I'm not plugging it. I don't get paid to say anything. I've just had it for a while. I love it. I recommend it to a lot of people. So tell Ryan he's made a great product, and I love it.
I will.
It's awesome, right? Look, I don't know if all the longevity things are true, but it certainly doesn't hurt anything. It helps tremendously with recovery. And for me, it's as big as a mental boost as a physical boost. There's the very practical nature of I tend to be working out right before I have to go do something else, and I can't cool off. I live in Atlanta, Georgia. It's hot and humid, and it's a wonderful thing to be able to hop in something for 3-4 minutes and bring your core body temperature way down. I sleep better with it. So I'm a huge proponent of it just because I see no downside. I think the mental toughness aspect is key. How I've learned about breathing and breath work and control and not panicking. And it's taught my kids a lot. My boys are 11 and 13 now, and watching their friends come over and the people who just can't commit to it make it way worse. And those just kind of surrender and just lay in it. And you get the vagus nerve and you just calm down. And there's a real trust and learning process there. So it's become part of my daily routine and just something that I feel like if you have access to one, there's really no reason not to be doing it. And I think there's potentially a lot of unbelievable reasons to do it. Health benefits, longevity. recovery, and sleep. Sleep being a big one for me. I think I sleep with a chili pad, and I notice I sleep better. And you have to be able to monitor it, right? I wear a Whoop. Not sponsored by any of these companies. Not paying me to say this stuff. But yeah, you need data to be able to show you, right? And I think I see a big difference in my sleep and recovery from using those products. So they've just become a mainstay in my training and in my life. And honestly, for my family as well. My wife does this stuff now. My kids do too. So I think you're teaching them really good habits that should benefit them for the rest of their lives.
What's your temperature? What do you keep it at?
So that was a big point of contention. When I originally got out, I kept it at 39 to 40. And now we're about 45 degrees. And it kind of works in the way, as I'm sure you have one as well. It keeps it in a 3-degree period, right? The chiller turns on once you get degrees away. So mine's typically 45, 46 degrees, which you get all the same benefits according to the podcast that I listened to. And it's much more approachable than 39, 40 was, which was honestly
it's brutal.
Yeah.
So I don't do it every day like you. Yeah. So, I mean, are you, so you're an everyday guy, no miss, and, which that's a big deal. So but it doesn't get easier, does it?
No, not at all. I mean, look, I travel and I'm away at an event or scouting a new location or in a partnership meeting, whatever it is, you're gone for 4 or 5 days. It's really hard to get mentally ready to be like, okay, I can do this. I got to go back into it, but it's never easy. Ever.
Yeah. Are you a sauna guy?
I am as well. I have a sauna, and I've been doing that for a while. I used to have a steam, but I like the sauna a lot more.
Yeah.
Just able to stay in there longer. And actually, it's funny, it's become a lot more social, right? I know my partner, Jesse, uses it a lot for social, but it is something at night that's nice to do after dinner. And it's just become a little bit, not an everyday routine. I had a wood burning sauna for a while. I just got a new electric one, which is being installed next week. So
the infrared?
It's not infrared, actually, no.
Okay.
But it's got one of those Hive hum heaters, the rocks, the really, really beautiful, modern looking. And it's become something that I feel like that, the cold plunge, and then a few just kind of daily supplements have really been a game changer for me. So,
And you say the Fuge, or did you say that's huge?
It's huge. Yeah. No, it's just been huge in terms of my, daily. Oh, the few supplements. Sorry. Yeah, the few. I only take a few things, but I just realized I lose way too much sodium when I work out, and I used to only take salt pills or electrolytes when I was actually doing a race. And that's just been part of a daily program. And I've been taking athletic greens for a few years. Okay. And really just enjoy that. I just feel like if I didn't do anything healthy for my body that day, at least I took some athletic greens that day, right? And got some greens. And it's a simple thing that has become very easy when I travel too, right? And those types of things, making sure I drink enough water, get the electrolytes in, and take my athletic greens, I feel like I'm at least doing a baseline of something that's good for me if I'm out of my normal workout routine.
Yep. What supplement do you use for the salt or the electrolytes?
Yeah, so I've been taking Precision Hydration for a while. I just like that they have the milligrams, so the total amount of sodium. They have tubes that are 500, 1,000, or 1,500 milligrams. And that was very helpful for me when I did like super ultra endurance events, like 100-mile runs. Just I knew how many milligrams I needed an hour, and it just made the math really easy, right? Yeah. Rather than taking salt pills and trying to figure out how many did I have, whatever this was, I could just take a 1,500 tablet and know I was good for an hour, and then take another one the next hour, right? And so I've been typically take their 1,000 milligram and drink that about twice a day, and it's just a dissolvable tablet that I put in water. So it's easy to travel with, and I lose a lot of salt when I sweat. So I did a sweat test and just figured out how much salt I was losing. And it's just learning about your body. Everybody's different. But I just realized one of my big fears in doing ultra endurance events was either overhydrating or not having enough electrolytes. And the way you fix that is just figuring out how much you sweat and realizing how much you need to replace, not only of actual liquid, but the salts, the sodium, the magnesium that you need to get back in your body. So that just became a system that's worked really well for me. And I really like their product.
So what do you find as a business guy, right? You're a businessman, you're a husband, you're a father, but you want to grow a business, right? So what do you find that keeps you in peak performance? Is it just daily action every single day, everything we're already talking about? Or how do you continue to find that extra gear to do all this personal stuff and the family stuff and yet still grow a kick-ass business?
Yeah, I'll tell you, there's no such thing as balance. I've had to
I
realize,
agree.
right? So I've had to realize that you just have to optimize for certain things at a point in time, and then figure out, what your kids need, what your wife needs, and actually be in communication about those things. So I did an Ironman in 2017. My wife has always been supportive, whatever I want to do, and she said, "Not another one." Right? The training.
We're tapping out.
Um, yeah, and she said it was too much on her. I was gone too much, and I was too tired when I was home for the amount of training that I was putting in. And really, because it's the multidiscipline, right? You got to spend all the time in the
Yeah.
pool, all the time like, and then run. Whereas, doing something like Leadville, your body just can't run that much. You just break it down. So
Yeah.
where you can be on a bike for a couple hours a day, you can't run that much. So what I realized is, look, when you start a business, it really needs all of your attention. And signing up to launch a business, be an entrepreneur, whether you're taking in capital or you're bootstrapping it, and then signing up for an Ironman or 100 miler, and then having a kid at the same time is probably not wise, right? So you can't always time everything in your life, but I feel like when I've had these periods where I've had a little bit of a lull, it was permission for me to say, okay, I'm going to put something really big personal that I want to go and do, right? And maybe that's an
Yeah.
adventure, a mountain I want to climb, a 100 miler I want to run, but I know that I'm in a season of life where I have the time to do that. My non-negotiable has always kind of been my kids, right? They're only going to be in the house so long. And that's why my wife said not another Ironman, because I didn't miss time with my kids. I didn't miss their sporting events. When they were at baseball games, I was running in between games or running from one part to the next, but then I wasn't with her. And so what I realized was, after I did that, I needed to do something to support her. So she actually signed up and did the second 29 of 29 we ever did. And she never even done a 10K. But I went from having the support of her doing Ironman to then flipping it and supporting her in really her first race ever. And that felt really good. It was really good for our marriage. So I don't know if it's advice. I'd say my lived experience is, you have to go really deep when you're an entrepreneur, but you don't have to do that forever. And it depends on what your goals are. My goals with 29 and 29 are not to be the biggest company out there, not to be the most profitable. My real goals are to have an impactful community, to build legacy, to have something that lasts, but maybe not maximize the profitability or the growth of the business. And that allows me to spend maybe some of that time that would be maybe spent on expansion. If that was something that was a success metric of mine, I can spend it on other things, right? So I think it's being very self-aware, and also honestly just realizing you can't do everything at once, because other things are going to suffer. And I'd rather do one thing or two things at an A+ than 6 at a B- or a C+.
Yeah. Don't you agree too? Like, putting things, like for me, it's in my calendar. And so it's self-management, putting it in your calendar. Like, if you want to be there for your kids or for your wife, whatever it may be, like, write it down in your calendar and then fill in the work spots around it. Would you agree with that?
100%. And look, also, I think it's just be honest with people. Like last night, I had a couple calls and I didn't want to miss my son's football game. So I just told him, I was like, look, I can hop on the phone and I can watch a football game while I'm on the phone. My son only plays defense. I'll talk to you when the offense is on the field, right? And it was a way to say, look, I can talk to you tonight or I can talk to you on Friday. But if it's urgent, I'm happy to get on the phone. Just understand there's going to be cheerleaders and a band in the background.
Right.
But you can be flexible and work from a lot of places. And I think where we're at, this is unbelievable. And it's also a curse if you can't put it down. And so finding that quiet time where you can get some real structured work done and really think, and in a Ryan Holiday way, be still, right? And honestly make some good progress. And then also you can work from anywhere. And so I kind of take that liberty to be able to work from a bunch of different places, and it allows me to spend more time with my family or friends or doing other things, adventure related, so long as I carved out that time to get the real work done before I get on the road.
So let's talk about the idea stage, right? A lot of people have ideas, and I'm assuming, I don't know how the 29029 came about, but you have an idea, and then let's say, you know what, man, let's go make it happen. Like, nobody's doing this. Nobody anywhere was doing anything like this, to my knowledge. How do you take an idea and then turn it into a business model sell it, and then buy it back? Let's unpack that.
Well, I'll start with have really good people around you who will tell you what a bad idea is too, right? And I don't say that lightly. Like I have a few people that I've worked with for years and I really trust, and I can go to them. I've been in YPO, Young Presidents Organization, for a while now. I go to my forum and say an idea that I have, we beat it up before I spend too much time on it. And sometimes that's just me having to defend my idea first and get more conviction in it before I go and do something. Other times it's battle testing something and being like, hey, maybe this isn't as good as the idea as I thought. But I think the thing that stops most people is just action, right? And most of the time what you think your initial idea isn't really that good, but by going out there and actually starting it, doing it, hosting the event, launching the podcast, writing the book, once you get started in the process, you get feedback, then you're iterating to figure out what the public wants, what the right product is, what the right placement is, what the right price point is, right? If you think about the 4 Ps of marketing, you really can't sit in a room for months and figure it all out. And how many successful companies have been founded that had a pivot? Almost all of them, right? And with 29, I don't know that there was a pivot, but if you looked at what we did event 1, how we sold it, how we positioned it, it was really positioned as like farm to table food, great bands, and a cool hiking challenge. And after the first event, Jesse and I looked at each other and Colin and we're like, this is really all about the story of climbing the height of Everest. Why are we spending money on farm to table meals and getting these bands from New York City to come in that are these wonderful bands? No one wants to listen to them. People want to spend all their energy on the mountain. Let's take those dollars and invest it in training, in coaching, in mindset talks, in speakers, and actually do everything to not rip out components of the event and replace it with margin, but let's figure out ways to actually reinvest those dollars in a way that supports what we think actually people are looking for and helping them achieve their goal better. So that led to really refining a product. And I think what we really did at the very beginning, we had 2 rules. I think it's very important to, if you're in business by yourself, it's important to kind of know what your vision and values are and write them down.
Yep.
That's business 101, but a lot of people don't do it. The second thing is, it's really important if you have partners to make sure you have alignment there. But like, what are your goals, right? And our goal was very simply to care the most. And I know that sounds ridiculous, but like, it's really true. We just said, hey, look, if we want to really build community, we want to have something that stands out as very different from the whole world of endurance sport and adventure sport. We're going to care the most. And how does that play through? That plays through in the people you work with, the people you hire, the vendors you work with. And then we're now in year 7, and we had no paid partners, any, right? And so you realize, like, I didn't want our participants to be the product, right? I wanted the product to be hiking the mountain. Well, yes, we could have had a cheaper ticket if we had allowed people to come in like BMW or Land Rover and sell their cars to this audience, right? Because it's an expensive ticket. And I didn't want that because I'd be servicing the sponsor and their needs and not servicing the customer. So we were very customer centric and caring the most. And that led us to build something that was very authentic. And anytime we had an opportunity to chase dollars from sponsors and we focused on the customer, it was easy to go back and say, what did we want to initially do? And is that still in alignment now? So, how did that lead to selling the company and buying it back? Well, at the end of the day, selling the business was something that there are just going to be points in time. And I think a lot of it just has to do with timing. There was a time period in 21 where valuations were absolutely crazy across all sectors. You had companies looking to go public, companies going public. You had unbelievable amounts of private equity and VC cash sloshing around. And there was opportunity that may not exist again. Now, look, that's a little bit hindsight, but you knew at the time there was a wave being built. And in buying the company back was a realignment of goals, right? I stayed on as CEO when we sold the business. My whole team came with me. So it was a strategic kind of partnership and acquisition. But when I realized that, like, long-term, the company that acquired us didn't really have a plan that married once they had to pivot their business model, it became like, well, I'm a buyer. I love this. I want to continue to do it. And being mature enough, I think, and patient enough for that opportunity to happen and not forcing it.
Yeah. Well, and I think too, staying involved and seeing something that's not hitting your passion and your mission, right? I mean, I think the clearer we are as entrepreneurs, as business owners, I mean, there's a clear passion and mission for what we're doing in our firm. And I would assume if I got displaced from that, but could still see, kind of like the goldfish looking at the goldfish, I could see this thing not going down the path I want. I don't want that, right, man? I want my baby back.
Yeah, and look, some of it's just I became a lot more self-aware, right? Like I
Yeah.
had a business partner buy me out of a business. I had a business go under, right? And so I'd had some success, had some failure, and then you have a big win like selling a business. And I think a lot of that as an entrepreneur, you think it's going to provide some validation for what you're doing. And what I realized was like, this is my
Yeah.
passion. It wasn't a mistake to sell the business. It was just that I wanted to buy it back almost more than I thought I wanted to sell it. Right. And that's
Yeah.
because there was such an alignment in my purpose and my passion. And look, the acquisition was great. My whole team stayed with me. I continued to do the same job. Um, and I just realized I'm a really bad employee. I'm an entrepreneur. And,
Right.
I thought, oh, I'm going to get to run a business unit. I'm going to get to acquire other businesses like this and put my business model on it. And I realized that I'd rather just only have to answer to myself or my partners
Yep.
collaboratively than have a boss, right? I just
Yep.
realized there's a reason I left as an entrepreneur in the beginning, and in recognizing that, I would be much happier going forward. Maybe even less financial opportunity, but more control over my day to day was much more valuable to me at that point in my life, and still is.
Well, great learning, right? It's a great learning to know you just can't work for somebody. I'm not an employee myself, so it's good to know. So I saw one of your posts. You said there's growing old versus growing up. Talk about that.
Yeah, I
You
mean, look,
recall that post?
my dad is super close. I'm close to both my parents, and they've been married for 50 plus years. And all I see of my dad is like, he still has fun all the time, right? He's still very
Yeah.
young at heart. And like, yeah, you're gonna have to grow old at some point. That doesn't mean you have to mature too much to a point to not be able to laugh at yourself, to try new things. And so yeah, it's super important to me to stay young at heart. And I say to my kids, I hope this comes across humble, but we were at a football game last week, and the steps on the bleacher are pretty big. And I'm 43, like I'm not 33 anymore, like I think
Right.
I am, and I keep myself in really good shape. But I looked at my son and my older son, because my younger son was on the football field, and I was like, look around, look at these dads like gingerly walking down these steps that are like my age, around the same age, and I was like, I jumped down those things, right? And
Right.
like my book, brag of just like, I don't want to get old, right?
No.
Like I want to try new things, but you have to work hard for that, right? You have to say no to some bad meals, not drink as much. You got to get in the gym. You got to do things. But I want to preserve the ability of me being not only kind of young at heart and maybe even a little immature with my sense of humor or my ability to laugh at myself the way I approach things, but also physically just be able to do stuff for a longer period of time than most people my age are able to. I realize 43 is still really young, um, but I want to be able to do the same stuff when I'm 73. And I really do believe that's possible, but it takes a mindset of kind of like staying young at heart to, I think, be able to achieve that.
Yeah. I was just last week. I went and we played 36 holes of golf per day out at Bandon Dunes out in Oregon. So if you're a
No.
golfer, it's phenomenal. Highly recommend it to anybody listening that's a golfer. But we talked about it. I'm 45, and I'm like, man, this is a young man's game. We're walking because there's no golf carts, so it's 36 holes a day. We're walking 15 to 17 miles a day. Thankfully, we had a caddy, but it's a lot, right? By the end of the first couple of days, you're hurting. So we did that for 4 straight days, and but I had the exact same thought, man. Like I don't want to not continue to be able to do this stuff because I'm quote unquote too old. And my actual long term goal in life is to play golf on my 100th birthday and shoot under 100. And so that's the goal.
Great.
And so, yeah, I think having that stuff, but it's important now. So what is that routine like for you? I know you said you like to run in the cold plunge and the sauna and all that, but kind of break that down for you, your food choices and even your exercise. What's that look like in a busy world today?
Look, I'm not as regimented as most people think, right?
Okay.
I'm really regimented when I have a goal. If I'm training for an ultra, a big race, whatever it is, I don't miss a workout. Right now, I think it's about finding some way to move every day. I don't know that these are like really amazing life hacks for people, but I take a lot of calls. I'm on the phone a lot. My team's remote. I walk constantly. Right now, my friends will tell me walking's not working out. So on one of those calls a day, I put on a 30-pound rucksack. And you walk 4 or 5 miles with 30 pounds on your back up and down hills, you build a lot of strength, core strength, back strength, leg strength. And I don't consider that a workout, right? So my workout typically is I run 5 miles a day, 4 days a week. And I lift weights 2 to 3 days a week. And then hopefully somewhere in there, depending on travel and what's going on, there's one long workout, whether it's a long bike ride, whether it's a long run, something of the duration of, an hour and a half to 2 hours, right? But food, just through my nature of kind of trying to maximize as much time in a day, I don't sit down for lunch. Today, the
Okay.
first thing I ate was 2 o'clock. I realized I was intermittent fasting years ago, not even knowing about
Right.
intermittent fasting. So, I take my kids to school every day. That's a non-negotiable for me. And my wife has her time in the morning, and I take the kids to school. And then I'm working out sometimes before I take them, sometimes after. I'm really flexible, but I make sure I do something active every single day that I would consider a workout. And I don't consider taking a conference call with a rucksack on a workout. It's just I'm being active rather than
Yeah.
sedentary. And
Yeah.
so I think for me, it's always been about having enough hydration. I don't drink soft drinks. Like these are simple things, right? I don't snack a lot. And I try to eat as healthy as we can. We try to cook in, 3 to 4 nights a week, but there's no like super strict diet. It's more or less just like a little bit of moderation and a lot of activity. And I've just found like I haven't gained weight in probably 13 to 15 years, unless I was trying to gain weight. But I'm really active. I'm on my feet constantly. I'm
Yep.
playing with my kids a lot, and I'm only really in a routine where I'm tracking every workout and all that type of stuff if there's something big on my calendar. Otherwise, I'm just trying to be 6 to 8 weeks away of hard training, be ready for almost anything. Right? I try to
Yeah.
stay in good enough shape, and that's something I learned from an amazing endurance coach who works on our staff, Chris Hout, who's Rich Roll's personal coach and
Oh yeah.
two-time Olympian. He's like, look, all my athletes are 6 or 8 weeks ready from almost doing anything. Like, if you want to go run a 100-mile run and I'm coaching you, 6 weeks from now, you could be ready if 6 weeks of hard training. And while I'm not on that caliber, I'm pretty close to where if I put my head
Yeah.
down for 6 weeks, I maintain a level of fitness that could have me ready for almost anything in a 6 to 8 week period.
So what's the next experience, man? What are you doing with your kids? And because that's something I'm thinking about. My oldest is a senior, and I've got a senior, a sophomore, 8th grade, 4th grade. One of my first college visit with my son. Sorry, Auburn. It was at Ole Miss, another
That's okay.
SEC there, and it was fun. We went to the Grove, did a little tailgating before the football game. It was incredible. But I'm looking for those experiences. So what do you have out there that you think would be cool with the kids? Whether it's adventurous, running, riding, swimming, hiking, whatever it may be.
Yeah, so two things that I learned each independently from someone else, not my own ideas. One, when each of my boys turns 13, I had one turn this year. They get to pick anywhere in the United States they want to go on a trip. It's just the two of
Yep.
us for 3 nights. Um, I had an opportunity to go to London and go to some Premier League games. My 13-year-old super into that, so he said,
Nice.
"Dad, you in the U.S. in London?" So I got to up the ante for my 11-year-old when he turns 13. And then when they turn 18, they get to pick anywhere in the world they want to go. And my wife and I, the four of us, will go on a family trip together. And that's been something that
Yep.
gets talked about a lot. And I want them to be really invested in it. They're going to have to plan it, but it's already being talked about in our family. So those are like two things at 13 and 18, kind of like going into 8th grade and then going into college. I felt like it was a really important time. One for me to just do one father son, and one to do as a family. As far as other adventures, I found for me the things that we enjoy most as a family is if we get out of our comfort zone. And so I've really enjoyed going to other countries and immersing ourselves in the culture. And experience that I've loved, we went to Patagonia, we've gone to Costa Rica, and they're super, super active vacations, right? Like you want a vacation afterwards to just rest,
Right.
but I want my kids to see the world. And I think, even in the United States, we tend to spend our summer, we spend a few weeks in Telluride every year. This last summer, because I had events in Jackson Hole and Sun Valley, we spent time at those locations. And like getting out in the mountains, there's something to do every day. And I've really enjoyed adventures where my kids had to put a decent amount of effort into something. So the big hikes, stand up paddleboarding down rivers, the mountain bike riding, that stuff's been very rewarding. Even taking them up their first like 13er. Next year, we'll probably climb a 14er with them.
Wow.
Safe routes, but like a lot of work, right? And then you get the payoff of a view. I really enjoyed those experiences where they kind of complained at the beginning. I did a dirt bike adventure, and I never ridden a dirt bike, so we all had to learn how to ride dirt bikes together, camp out. I don't like camping, right? And it ended up being something that was amazing. I did it with another entrepreneur and his sons. There were actually like 4 dads and 4 sons. So I found stuff like that to be really gratifying too, where you have to kind of learn to skill together. And then you're doing it in an adventure where it's not easy, but I also think that the memories are so much stronger from doing those types of activities that we've done together.
It's incredible. Yeah, we do the 13, and then they're the summer after they graduate. So it'll be our first one finally. Not finally because it went so damn fast, but our big trip. But they're thinking a little bigger, man. Our first one when he was 13, it was COVID, so we kind of got screwed in that deal. We ended up having a staycation here in St. Louis, but it was nice, it was fun. And then the next one picked Chicago, and then the last one we just did in April was he picked California. So I'm anxious to see in a few years what our next one does. So last couple questions here, man. You talked about earlier about dreaming big, and we've really kind of been dreaming big and talking big this whole time, but what is that process for you? Because like for me, it's this black journal here. It's sitting down. It's spending time with myself. It's thinking. It's dreaming. It's strategizing. Do you have a process like that you could share with our listeners, or what is that dreaming big process for you?
Yeah, so I found what works really well for me is I need to be moving and I need to be outdoors, and I got to get in a place that inspires me. And look,
Yeah.
Atlanta's a beautiful city, I like it, but it doesn't inspire me. So what
Yeah.
I found works really well for me is to go to a beautiful place, spend time in nature without any distraction. Anytime I run, I don't bring my phone. I don't wear an Apple Watch. I want to be away from devices. I think I do really good thinking there. And then look, Jesse and I are partners in a few businesses, and Jesse, for those who don't know him, is an incredible entrepreneur, super inspiring person. But if you think you have a big idea, bring it to someone who's had ideas that are 10 times
Even
bigger,
bigger. Yeah.
right? And get pushed in that sense. I think that whether it's related to 29 or 29 or not, when I'm thinking about something that I think is a game changer, and you have a circle of friends and peers that are thinking big, and I don't always think that big means more money, right? But just challenging yourself, a big adventure, whatever it is, right? Having people there that you really look up to, challenge and say, are you thinking big enough, or are you limiting yourself? And sometimes you're starting really big and then refining on the way down. But I think that who you surround yourself with matters so much, because when I'm thinking about adventures I'm going to go and do, I'm comparing adventures that I would do to Colin O'Brady, who's one of my partners, who's got 10 world records and was
Yeah.
the first person to pull a sled across Antarctica for 60 something days, self-supported, right? So he's thinking of an adventure as something no human has ever done before. And therefore, when I get ideas from him, it's like his weekend training routine, right? And that's not diminishing what I'm doing, but I'm also not going to a circle of friends that are so impressed with what they've done.
Yeah.
They're going to think anything I do is outstanding. I'm surrounding myself with peers who have done such impressive things. I mean, I personally have 2 close friends that have rowed the Atlantic. I mean, that's nuts, right? I would never think
Right.
about rowing the right? But when you start talking to them, they're like, oh, did you know you can do this between Antigua and this? And that'd be really cool for like 2 days, right? Or did you know you can
Yeah. They
ski
think
across,
different.
yeah, you can ski across Finland, right? It's 8-day cross country skiing, and they set up, tents for you to sleep in. And so now me and my friends are kind of considering, oh, is that something we do for our next guys trip, right? So it's kind of expanding who you speak to around these things, and not being nervous around sharing your ideas, because a lot of times my friends are actually challenging me to think bigger, and I'm probably a little too focused on something that is probably too attainable, and they're pushing me to think bigger because they've had such big experiences themselves.
Yeah. Saul, Seaside was on your location thing for your deal. So watercolor, Seaside, you love 30A down there?
I do. I really do. My parents started going down there in like the early 2000s, and that's
It's
been,
changed a bit.
yeah, it's changed a lot. And I think, it's easy to look back, but and say, oh, I should have bought real estate. I should have looked at this, whatever. It's interesting to learn from those moments too, right? And the people who did, and the companies that invested there, and the vision that they had, to see what it's
Yeah.
transpired to. To me, like, I don't look back and say I missed an opportunity. I look back and say, what could I learn from that area? What could I learn from what those people did? Because they took a lot of big risks, and I cheer them for winning because that area exploded, and it's become a great family place for us. We'll be down there for Thanksgiving this year with my parents, and I love it down there.
Yeah, we go there a couple times a year. I'll be down there. I go on 2 times for the family and 1 time with a buddy's golf trip down there. And I had the same learning moment, man. I made an offer on a house in 19, went back and did the head scratcher in this summer, and I saw what it sold for. I'm like, wow, that's a humbling moment. What do I learn from that one? But hey, you live and learn, right? Where do our listeners find more of you?
Yeah, I mean, look, 29029. I mean, just Google 29029, just the numbers, and then my Instagram handle is Marc MARC 29029. So pretty synonymous with our brand. I live and breathe it, and would encourage anyone, whether you're going to check out our event or something else, like put something big on your calendar, right? I think it's putting something big on your calendar gives you the opportunity to be more interesting, and you'd be surprising how much people just really care about you doing something different, whether that's running a marathon, whether it's starting a podcast, whatever it is. I think putting something big on your calendar allows you to be part of a conversation that you're not starting with other people; they're starting it with you. And not to be egotistical, but I just think it's very interesting how that then leads into business and other opportunities, because you're just doing something that people find of interest, and you're continuing to challenge yourself, which I think all too often people think about doing but don't do. So I would just encourage people to find something, no matter how scary, and surround yourself with people that will support you in doing it. And that's really what we've been trying to do at 29 since the beginning.
Also creates a sense of urgency for your training, man, to stay in shape.
Yeah, I need that for sure.
Awesome, man. Well, Marc, thanks so much for being with me on the Circuit of Success. Hang with me when I hit finish here, and then, but man, really appreciate you being on the show.
Awesome. Thanks, Brett.